I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat in the witness stand. And for the record, say and spell your first and last name, please.
My first name is David, D-A-V-I-D, last of Friedrich, F-R-I-E-D-R-I-C-H.
Proceed, please.
Thank you. Sir, are you currently employed?
I am.
Okay, and how are you employed now?
I work for a technological company, a camera company.
Doing security?
Yes,
Okay. And prior to that, did you have employment for many years with the LAPD?
I did.
Okay. How many years?
A little over 30 and a half years with the Los Angeles Police Department.
And what was your last assignment at the LAPD?
I was assigned to Robbery Homicide Division, assigned to a plainclothes tactical surveillance unit called SIS, otherwise known as Special Investigations Section.
For how many years were you in an undercover capacity?
I was in SIS for a little over 20 years.
I want to ask you about your surveillance work on this case regarding the defendant, Monica Sementilli. Were you asked by detectives at Robbery Homicide Division to conduct a surveillance operation along with your team with respect to the defendant and her lover, Robert Baker?
Yes,
And were you briefed on March 9th of 2017 by Detective Corbin Rowe regarding the operation that was going to take place that day?
yes,
And at that time, were you, along with the other team members, provided with photographs of the two targets?
yes,
And do you see the defendant, Monica Sementilli, who you surveilled on various occasions here in court today?
I do.
Can you identify her, please?
She's sitting in the defense counsel wearing a blue jacket with a light blue shirt.
Indicating the defendant.
Showing you People's 14. Do you recognize the individual that you see here?
I do.
This is in People's 14. It has a red 2, Your Honor, in the bottom left corner. And who is that individual?
It's Mr. Robert Baker.
He was the second target in this case.
Yes,
And were you also briefed on vehicles that the two targets might be driving?
yes,
Okay. Was one of those vehicles a black Ford Expedition belonging to Robert Baker, as seen here in Exhibit 142?
yes,
On that same day, Thursday, March 9th of 2017, somewhere around 7:20 at night, were you and other individuals, including Rich Guzman, working a surveillance operation regarding the defendant and Robert Baker?
yes.
And where were you at approximately 7:20 that night when you were setting up for this operation?
On that night, I was parked on the southwest corner of Van Owen and Independence in a parking lot. We were covering a direction from the surveillance.
Okay. So that would have been very near the location where Robert Baker was living at 6817 Independence?
Yeah, I believe he lived north of Van Owen.
Okay. And so you were setting up in order to see where he went that night?
That's correct.
Okay. And at some point in time, did you receive information as to someone in the unit having eyes on him?
Yes,
Okay. And was it broadcast to you where he was going?
it was broadcast that a black F-150 pulled into the northeast corner of Van Owen and Independence.
Was that black Ford F-150 also a vehicle that you were briefed on as belonging to the defendant in this case, Monica Sementilli?
Yes,
Okay. And once you received information that she was driving the Ford F-150, what was the next piece of information you received?
If I recall, there was broadcast over the air that they were looking at bags in and around the vehicle.
Objection. This is keeping on here.
It appears so. If you wish to make an offer of proof, may you see it sidebar, please.
I'm going to actually play video.
All right.
Subsequent to the broadcast was videotape obtained of both targets in a parking lot that you guys were also setting up on.
Yes.
Overruled.
Your Honor, I have two videos. The first one is a video of the petrol gas station. The second's going to be a video from LA Fitness. Both of them are on a flash drive that I'd like to, or I think has been previously marked as 158. We're going to add to that exhibit.
Good.
Is that the black Ford F-150 that you were advised of belonging to the defendant?
Yes.
And you've seen this video before, correct?
Yes.
And the shopping bags that are being carried by Robert Baker that you also mentioned?
That's what was broadcast over the air.
And then what did you see, if you could narrate for us what we're looking at?
Well,
He just put the bags into the back seat behind the passenger?
That's
front
correct.
passenger?
yes.
And then did you recognize the female?
It's Monica Sementilli.
Here's that she's going to the passenger door and looking in the bags,
Yes.
pulling out items.
Your Honor, I believe the video speaks for itself.
It's overruled.
Holding up various items, is that what you see?
That's what I see.
Is this all consistent with what was being broadcast to you? And what you've seen on this video before?
Yes.
And during the time that this is happening, everything's being broadcast to you on a regular, repeat basis?
Just important details that the person, whoever's on point, is broadcasting.
And you pass off point during the course of your operations, correct? Depending on the direction that they go and who is parked where.
Correct. Like in a mobile surveillance, it's not just me that sees everything. Everybody in the unit sees a little portion of the surveillance, and whoever's on point, who has the eye, broadcast the movements or direction as if, and if I'm listening to it in my head, I can almost see it in my head, so I can make sure that I'm in the right spot in the surveillance to seamlessly get behind the vehicle or get on foot to watch them. That's how surveillance works. The idea is to watch a person, place, or thing, document, videotape, get some notes without being compromised.
It appears that they're both still at the back passenger door. The defendant's still holding up, pulling out various items from the bags, holding them up. And the two of them are conversing.
That's correct.
Appears that the defendant has moved whatever jacket she was wearing now.
On the video, yes.
And then appears to be getting into that back passenger seat where the clothing bags were.
Yes.
And does it appear that Baker's going around the back of the vehicle to the driver's side?
Yes.
And again, at that point, was it broadcast to you and others on the team that night that they were moving?
Yes.
All right. And at that point, did you follow them somewhere?
I stayed where I was at. I was still at Van Owen and Independence on the southwest corner. The vehicle actually pulled into the area where I was sitting at, kind of behind me. I was facing southbound, and the vehicle pulled up to my rear, if you will, kind of northeast of where I was parked at.
Okay. So you didn't need to move. You were already set up in a good location.
That's correct.
All right. And then that parking lot there, that area of Van Owen, was that an open parking lot area?
Yeah, I believe it's an apartment complex with an open parking lot.
Okay. And what did you see once Baker drove in to that location?
Overruled.
I was with a partner. I wasn't just by myself. My partner was Detective Pete Miranda, M-I-R-A-N-D-A. And I was driving, and I was using my side view mirror to get the visual, as well as turning my shoulder or turning my head to my left, looking back. But I saw Mr. Baker exit the driver's side and kind of walk out towards the right front of the vehicle, and see Monica Sementilli, and they were hugging and kissing, and then eventually I recall seeing them inside a portion of the vehicle, kind of I couldn't see exactly what they were doing, but the way their bodies were, that they were definitely embracing each other.
All right. And then did you follow somewhere?
From there, they loaded up. I believe Mr. Baker was still driving, and they drove away eastbound in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay. And at this point, did the defendant get into, prior to loading up and moving from that second parking lot, get into the right front passenger seat?
Yeah, I recall it was definitely the passenger side.
Okay. And where did you follow them to?
I'll allow this.
The unit, my unit, and myself continued surveillance, and Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker end up going to the Good Bar Inn, or the Good Night Bar in North Hollywood, I believe.
Okay. And did your partner get out at that point?
He was out on foot.
Okay. Just like you were describing earlier?
Correct.
Okay. And at some point in time after he followed them on foot, did you see the defendant along with Baker come out of the location?
I didn't see him come out. It was broadcast to me that they were walking out.
Okay.
I had already placed my vehicle on Denny Street. It's in North Hollywood. It runs north and south. just north of that east-west major. I was able to locate the truck to the rear of the bar, at least see the top of the truck, and I saw them walking northbound on the east sidewalk, holding hands prior to them getting into their vehicle.
Okay. And then did you follow them to another location?
Yeah, the surveillance continued, and I believe they ended up in West Hollywood area or Hollywood area to the comedy club.
And did you remain at that location till the end of watch?
That's correct.
All right. And they remained inside the location past when you ended your watch?
Correct. We had left the area and they were still inside the location.
All right. The following day, Friday, March 10th, at about 2 o'clock, were you once again part of a surveillance operation that SIS conducted with the same individuals?
Yes.
Okay. And on this particular day, did you go to a particular location based on trackers that have been previously placed?
I believe we located Mr. Baker and his black expedition on the southeast corner of Ventura and Winnetka.
Okay. And what did you observe at that time?
That he was alone eating in a like a Japanese restaurant in like the strip mall area. I believe there's a Ralph's in that parking lot.
Okay. And at that location, did you get out of the vehicle and install something on his vehicle?
I did.
What did you do?
I placed a GPS tracking device on his vehicle.
I want to move your attention forward now to Monday, June 5th of 2017. In the morning, once again, were you working on a surveillance operation that took place that day at the Queen Vic location?
Yes.
Her residence, 5012 Queen Victoria?
Yes.
Woodland Hills. And did you observe her, the defendant, driving that day?
I did.
And did you observe her actually leaving the residence?
Not actually leaving the residence. I believe it was kind of hard to set up a point on the residence, so I was down the street and covering the direction, and I observed Monica Sementilli driving, I believe, a dark color Mustang.
Okay. And at this point, was this a new vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Showing you what's been previously marked as People's 148. Is this the vehicle that you observed?
Yes.
And she was coming from the direction of her home towards where you were parked just down the street?
That's correct.
Okay. The next day, June 6th, once again, was a surveillance operation conducted that you were a part of?
Yes.
Okay. And in addition to the vehicle trackers that we've heard about, did you locate her that day from a phone ping?
Yes.
What's a phone ping?
Well, detectives can write search warrants for somebody's cell phone. Every 15 minutes, they would get a general location where it hits off a cell tower. That particular ping, I wasn't obtaining them, or I was not getting them from the phone company. I believe other detectives were. And it was broadcast that for us to look in the area of like Van Owen and Canoga area, I was able to pull into the LA Fitness parking lot on the southwest corner. I believe it's Victory and Canoga.
Okay. And go ahead.
And located the black Ford Mustang in the lot facing southbound.
Okay. This is not a wiretap. It's a geolocation ping.
That's correct.
Information, correct?
Just a location to where it's hidden off a cell tower and puts you in a general area.
Okay. And so, what is it that you were able to locate in the LA Fitness parking lot over at in Canoga? Is that 6401 Canoga Avenue in Woodland Hills?
And I believe so, yes.
Okay. And what did you locate?
I located the black Ford Mustang parked in the parking lot.
Okay. The same one that you had seen her driving the day before.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you got to that particular location, were you in a vehicle that day with a partner, or were you by yourself?
I believe I was by myself.
Your Honor, I have six photographs from the LA Fitness located at 6401 Canoga Avenue in Woodland Hills. May they be marked as the people's next in order?
197.
197?
Yes, so marked.
Thank you. Showing you what's been now marked as people's 197. There's a 29 in the lower left corner. Is this the location where you located the Mustang?
Yes, but on the far east end of this parking lot.
Okay. Showing you people's 197 that has a number 30 in the bottom left corner. Is there a large parking lot, as we see in these photographs, outside of this gym?
Yes.
Same location where you were set up that day?
Yes.
Showing you exhibit 197 that has a number 31 in the lower left corner. Is this the Mustang that you located in the parking lot?
Yes.
And where were you in relation?
I was just in the parking aisle just north and just a little bit west of the Mustang, where I had an unobstructed view looking southeasterly, if you will.
Are these photographs that actually you took that day during your surveillance operation?
I did not take this picture, but I believe another detective did.
That was working with you?
That's correct.
Okay. And during the surveillance operations by SIS, is it common that whichever detective has the best vantage point might take photographs or video or things of that nature?
Yeah, if you can work yourself in a position to take photographs and video, that'd be great. At least it would help the case, and we give that information to the detectives so they can sift through it.
Okay. And at some point, did you actually see the defendant with Robert Baker that day at this location?
I did.
Okay. Showing you People's 197 that has a number 32 in the lower left corner. Is this what you observed?
I did, but from the northwest of them, yes.
Yes. And so this was them coming out of the gym towards the Mustang?
That's correct.
Showing you People's 197, number 33. Is this another photograph taken of what you also observed that day?
Yes.
And the last one, 197, number 34. Can you describe for us what we see here?
Just see Robert Baker at the passenger door, ready to sit down, and Monica Sementilli is behind in the driver's seat, and they drove off together.
Okay. She was in the driver, he was in the front passenger?
Yes.
And approximately what time is this on June 6th?
I'd have to refresh my recollection. It was
Was it in the afternoon?
between 2 and 3.
Okay. And at some point in time before they had come out to the vehicle, was a vehicle tracker placed on this vehicle by Marcello Raffi, one of the other detectives working with you that day?
Yeah, that's correct.
And was this interaction between the two targets also caught on videotape that day?
I don't recall I can't recall the video, if there's a videotape, but definitely photos.
Let me see. This reminds me.
Yes.
What do we hear in the background? Is that you guys talking on the radio? It says they came out with equipment.
It was probably me. I couldn't hear it right there.
Backflow racket.
That's my voice.
Is that you broadcasting
Yes.
and also taking photographs?
Not,
Someone is?
Someone's taking photographs. I believe this might be Detective Plaus, if I remember correctly. But I was definitely broadcasting the movement, walking to the vehicle, and then looking at the right front of the car.
Appears they're looking at something on the vehicle, or at least around the vehicle talking.
Yes.
So is this typical of the type of surveillance that you did on the targets, where you would have a group of individuals, someone would be narrating what they're observing, photographs or video may be taken, and you spend a lot of time waiting?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's still your voice broadcasting what you're observing?
Yes, ma'am.
How far is this location from Baker's apartment at 6817 Independence?
No rule.
Approximately.
I mean, he lived at Van Owen and Independence. This is Victory, I believe. One major south. Not too far.
A few miles.
A few miles here.
And you told us that this was somewhere between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I believe so.
And did you follow them from this location to another location?
I stayed in the parking lot. I broadcast the movement. I don't recall exactly where they went from the LA Fitness.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at your notes?
They would.
Could you do so, please?
Yes, ma'am.
They appear to be driving away now.
Yes.
did you follow them to?
So after they left the LA Fitness, they drove back to Independence, where Robert Baker lived.
And where did the defendant park her Mustang?
Refresh my look at it, if it's
Sure.
in there. I wasn't on point, so I don't recall exactly where she parked it, but there was notes that were being taken.
And being broadcast to you?
Correct. .6817 Independence parked in the underground garage of the apartment.
Okay. And a couple hours later, did the defendant come out of the apartment? Hour or two later?
Yeah, forgive me, this is 8 years ago, so I'm just trying to
I know.
refresh my recollection.
Just let us know when you've done that.
Well, after they left the gym, they went to Independence. Then Monica left alone in the vehicle and then drove to the Ralph's.
Okay. That was a couple hours later, an hour and a half later?
Within the hour.
Approximately 4:15?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Let's take our morning recess at this time for 15 minutes. The evidence supplies. We'll be back here in 15 minutes. It is present. All counsel are present. Jury and alternates are present. Detective Friedrich, you're still under oath, and the defense may inquire.
Good morning, Detective Friedrich.
Good morning, ma'am.
Back in 2017, you were a member of this highly specialized special investigations section unit that was assigned to target Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker. Is that right?
Assigned to conduct surveillance of them, yes.
Okay. And that surveillance was conducted by your entire team at the time at SIS?
Whoever worked that day, yes.
Okay. And that was, you were briefed on your assignment and targeting Ms. Sementilli and Mr. Baker. Do you remember when you were first briefed?
I believe it was on March 9th.
Okay. And am I right that you, the surveillance team, surveilled Ms. Sementilli and Mr. Baker, or at least tried to, from March through Ms. Sementilli's arrest in June of 2007? Is that right? 17, is that correct?
But not every day. I believe I was only on 4 actual days of surveillance.
Okay. And of those 4 actual days of surveillance, am I correct, you only ever observed Ms. Sementilli with Mr. Baker on 2 of those days?
Definitely March 9th, I believe.
Okay.
And then definitely when they came out of the LA Fitness.
Okay. And that was June 5th?
June 6th, I believe.
June 6th?
Correct. And I did see Ms. Sementilli driving the Mustang. I believe it was June 5th.
Okay. But that, am I right, that wasn't with Mr. Baker?
She was alone in the Mustang on June 5th. That's correct.
Okay. So on these 2 occasions, you actually observed them together. The observations you were discussing earlier on that video where there were shopping bags and clothes, you didn't see that in real time, am I right?
I did not see that, no.
Okay. So that was Detective Guzman who observed that?
I don't recall who was broadcasting, but someone had broadcast that they were looking at items on that Independence and Van Allen Street on the northeast corner.
Okay. But that wasn't you?
That is correct. It was not me.
And there was no, I was a little confused, there was no broadcast of video at that time. You weren't watching it live, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And what you observed was in another parking lot on the 9th, and you saw Baker drive the truck into the parking lot, and at some point Baker got out, Monica got out of the passenger side and you saw some hugging and kissing and talking.
Yes,
And that was for, you think, less than 10 minutes.
approximately.
Okay. And then you followed their vehicle that evening on the 9th to the Goodnight Bar, and then later to a place called the Laugh Factory.
That's correct.
And then you left them there and finished your shift.
That's correct.
And on that surveillance that your team did, sorry, I'm very sorry. On that surveillance that your team did on March 9 and March 10, that's the only time you ever observed them, correct?
But then I believe June 6th at the LA Fitness.
Right, I'm talking about March 9, March 10.
That I observed him, yes.
Yeah. But you heard broadcasts as well
Yes.
of the surveillance, the other members of the team. How many members, how many detectives?
In 2017, I believe we had approximately a lieutenant, 4 D3s, and maybe 13 to 14 D2s, for roughly about 20 people assigned to SIS. But with days off and vacations, I couldn't tell you how many people worked. We do have a minimum of at least, I believe, 12 to 13 people that shall be in a surveillance. That helps with people getting out on foot. That helps with different looks of the vehicles. So there's not just me in surveillance, but the unit who was working that day.
It's a lot of manpower.
Yes,
12 to 13 a minimum.
yes,
Okay. And am I correct that during your surveillance of Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker that day, you never observed Monica and Baker meeting with any other individual at any time, correct?
I did not observe that I can recall, no.
And am I correct, at no time during your surveillance on March 9 or March 10, 2017, did you ever hear a broadcast of Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker ever meeting with any third person?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And am I correct that the only other time you surveilled and saw Monica Sementilli with Robert Baker was in that LA Fitness parking lot, correct?
Correct.
And at no time did you ever observe Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker ever meeting with any third person, correct?
That's correct.
And nor did you ever hear any broadcast from your specialized unit about Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker ever meeting with any third person?
Correct.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Anything further by the people?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Detective Friedrich. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Take our next witness.
Thank you. We will call Salvatore Pilera.